let's talk about the fart test. So forgive me my lack of grace, as well as my crudeness, and if this line of conversation offends you. But those of you listening know exactly what I am talking about. You're in a new relationship. You pay attention to how you look. You may not order garlic to keep you kissable. You keep things clean and orderly. In the beginning of a relationship, we are sort of the aspirational version of ourselves. And it kind of gets filed under making a good impression. You may even avoid eating beans and cabbage, right? Just want to be sort of that pristine person. And as the relationship continues, this is not sustainable. You might be able to do this for a few weeks, maybe even a few months. But you may not want to do full hair and makeup before they wake up, or just to go grocery shopping with them. Or when you finally spend the night, like I said, unless you crawl out of bed before they wake up and clean up and take a shower and brush your hair and do your hair and face, they're going to see the real you. I have even known people who avoid having full bodily functions and going elsewhere to do a so-called number two instead of doing it in this new person's home or apartment. And as time keeps going on, let's face it, folks, that day's going to come when you finally let one rip. Life happens, intestines do their thing, and try as you might, one sneaks out. Now, for some people, this is a moment of mortification, as though you now become human. It could be a moment of fear. They won't see me the same way again. The fart becomes a metaphor. The day this relationship goes out of the idealized, I always look this put together, to I have normal and not always charming bodily functions too. Maybe it's the day we don't or no longer feel like the idealized, love, bombable person. Who knows why this is such a moment? Maybe because kids made fun of us when we were in school. Maybe because little kids spend so much time in trying to do tricks with their armpits and simulate that sound to tease. Maybe because farting is a sort of metaphor we associate with older folks who just don't have as much control of their bodies. Folks, thank goodness, my days of dating and all that are behind me permanently. I would probably fail the fart test the first time I got up from the table on a first date. And I'm using this, though, as a metaphor. That day of the fart, it's the day the relationship becomes human. And in a healthy relationship, this moment should be a nothing and would only become a something if we made it into a something. And while in a narcissistic relationship, it may not really be anything, but something about these relationships feels unstable and fragile. That one little toot can leave you feeling like you're puncturing a bubble, that you have taken the glitter out of the fairy tale. And there is somehow something nascent, quiet, and implied within the even relatively new narcissistic relationship, that this relationship only works if you are somehow not quite human, if you never got it wrong. And around the time of that first fart, as it were, is probably when this relationship is settling into a rhythm. Perhaps a little bit of the novelty is gone. You're relaxing, a few more movie nights at home, maybe opening up more, being more of yourself. In a healthy relationship, this is where you advance to the next meaningful level of intimacy. In an unhealthy relationship, this is where you may start to feel that your true self is a bit precarious. Narcissistic people maintain the fantasy that they are in fact, they need an ideal love story. It's really quite grandiose, which is why they often concern themselves with all the things that make relationships seem glittery, like perhaps having a higher status partner or getting into relationships quickly and impulsively. The excitement can also fuel the grandiosity, and they believe their own hype. This is a once in a lifetime, I have never felt this way about anyone's soulmate situation. Well, that's only going to last a minute until you're revealed to be a person with a gastrointestinal system and not a prop. A sort of slip, the almighty fart, like this, may even result in you feeling judged, ridiculed, laughed at. And while if it's good-natured ribbing, it can feel like a silly, fun moment, but there may be an edge, a sense of, ooh, now the blush is off the rose. I actually believe the first fart moment may be more momentous than your first kiss. Because that fart is a moment where both of you may recognize that the trueness and humanness of each of you is what makes you lovable. Not the aspirational you, not the dating profile you, not the grid photo you, not the photoshopped you, but the you. Listen, I'm not advocating for passing gas as a first date opener, but as time goes on and there are more real moments in the relationship, this is actually a good thing. It just probably doesn't feel that way in a narcissistic relationship because ultimately the proverbial red flags aren't that red or even that seeable. They are dozens of subtle things that you sort of feel in your body, but try to wave away because the other stuff that might be happening in this new relationship sort of feels good and right. Whatever bodily function it is, throwing up, passing gas, a night spent in a bathroom after some bad fish, or just you being you, dealing with a messy family situation, maybe not knowing how something works or what it is. Maybe you don't know something about something fancy or elite or technical or even how to pronounce something. Maybe it's a quirky laugh or you snort laugh or spit while you talk. Something, anything that means you are no longer performatively perfect. Could that be enough to make a narcissistic person walk? You should be so lucky. True love is the person who listens to you fart and just draws you closer when it happens. The problem is the narcissistic person, when you start becoming the less and less perfect version of yourself, it's not as simple as I'm getting up and leaving. If it was, then be like, okay, well, that hurt, but at least you would have maybe saved yourself many, many years of, once you have that fall from grace, your supply, maybe not as interesting to them. And the relationship definitely segues away from the love bomb into the devalue. And there'll always be that sense of, well, maybe if I was more perfect, everything from whether that's never passing gas, to always looking perfect, to always getting everything perfect. You will destroy yourself in that pursuit, believing it's possible. Remember, whatever it is, farting the first time someone sees you without your makeup, you don't know how to pronounce the name of some fancy French wine, and that the other person doesn't make fun of you, doesn't laugh at you, but recognizes that you're a whole person and all of you, that essence of you is what's lovable. So folks, fart away might be the only way you're going to find true love. Thanks again.